Bore da I bob un ohonoch chi a chroeso unwaith eto I gyfarfod heddiw bwrdd iechyd addysgu Powys. Ac fel y gwelwch chi, dyn ni'n cynnal y cyfarfod heddiw yn rhithiol ac yn ôl ein harfer, mae'r cyfarfod yn cael ei brif ffrydio ac mi fydd na recordiad o'r cyfarfod ar gael trwy ein gwefan i'w gwylio ar ôl y digwyddiad heddiw. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all once again to this meeting of the board of Powys Teaching Health Board, and as always we hold our meetings virtually. This meeting is being live streamed from our website, and again in accordance with our usual way of working, there will be a recording of the meeting available to watch after today on our website for those that haven't been able to watch the live stream. Carl Cooper ydy yn enw I, a fi ydy cadeirydd y bwrdd, ac yn y man fe welwch chi ar y sgrin manylion enwau fy nghydweithwyr eraill ar y bwrdd, sef aelodau undebol yn ogystal ag aelodau gweithredol. A gyda'n gilydd ni sydd yn ffurfio bwrdd undebol sydd yn llywodraethu y sefydliad. So you'll see on screen now names and details of my board colleagues. My name is Carl Cooper and I am the chair of the board. And as you can see on the screen, we are a unitary board and we are comprised of both independent members and executive members. Also on the screen, you will see names of those colleagues who can't be with us today and whose apologies for absence we have received. It's important perhaps to draw attention to the fact that our chief executive and our executive director for therapies, life sciences and digital, both of those are not able to be with us today. However, I'm really pleased that we do have with us, I should say because they are having a very, very well-earned annual leave break, we do have with us our Deputy Chief Executive, Pete Hopgood, and also deputising for Claire Madsen, our Executive Director for Therapies, is Matthew King, and delighted to have Matthew with us this morning as well. So, ni ydi corff llywodraethol y sefydliad fel wedais I, dyn ni yma I gyflawni dyletswyddau a'r cyfrifoldebau sydd angen i'w cyflawni. Hynny yw, dyn ni yma I osod cyfeiriad strategol ar gyfer y sefydliad, dyn ni yma I bennu ychwaith risg wrth I ni gyflawni yr amcanion strategol hynny. Dyn ni yma hefyd I fonitro sut dyn ni yn cyflawni ac I fonitro perfformiad yn erbyn yr amcanion strategol, ac yn bwysig iawn, dyn ni yma hefyd I fodelu ac I osod tôn a diwylliant yn seiliedig ar ein gwerthoedd o fewn y sefydliad. As a governing body, we have a number of responsibilities and duties placed on our shoulders, but the four broad responsibilities we have are to set the strategic direction for our organisation, to set the risk appetite in the delivery of our strategic aims and priorities, to monitor our performance against those strategic aims, and very importantly, to model and to shape and to influence the tone and the culture within our organisation based on our values. So, cyfarfod ychwanegol sydd gennym ni heddiw, dyn ni yma I ystyried yr adroddiad blynyddol a'r cyfrifon ar gyfer y llynedd, sef blwyddyn 2025 I flwyddyn 2026. Today is an additional meeting, and we're here to do one thing only, but a very, very crucial and important thing, and that's to consider last year's annual report and accounts for our health board. So the financial year 2025 to 2026. And so without any further ado, we're going to go now to our agenda, and we're going to take each of the agenda items in turn, but we're not going to discuss each agenda item after each item. At the end of item 2.3, we will then open the matters for questions and discussions before coming finally to a composite recommendation, which is a conflation of the recommendation at item 2.1 and the recommendation at item 2.3. So I will invite now Pete Hopgood, our Deputy Chief Executive and Executive Director for Finance, Capital and Support Services, to introduce item 2.1. And also, Pete, if you'd be kind enough to introduce colleagues that we have with us today from Audit Wales.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Good morning, everyone. So it'd be a very short introduction from me because I'm going to invite Mike from Audit Wales to come in and talk us through the ISA 260, which is the Audit Wales report on their audit work against our account. So, Mike, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. I'm not going to go through the report in huge detail because we did yesterday, as is normal governance arrangements at the audit committee yesterday, and I think the audit committee chair's going to come on and confirm that after I've gone. But there are some important bits to go through in the report. So on page 5 of the report, probably the most important bit at the top. So we're intending to issue an unqualified, true and fair opinion on the financial statements for 2005-2006. But in line with the last couple of years, we're qualifying the regularity opinion because the health board did not meet its first and second financial duties to operate within its revenue resource. Secondly, there's one significant issue in the report, which I'll come on to in a second, and there's one uncorrected misstatement. We're aiming to certify the accounts on Friday, the 26th of July, so meeting the deadline of the end of June for certification of your accounts. Page 6 just confirms to members of the board what the materiality was that we've been working to in the audit. The one significant issue which I refer to was errors in the way the health board has accounted for the impairment, which has meant what that has resulted in is one material amendment that has been made in the accounts that are before you today between reserves, the revaluation reserve and the general fund, and it has also meant one uncorrected misstatement, a non-material misstatement which wouldn't affect our opinion of 2.4 million along similar lines of the material item issue that was amended, and we're asking today, or Pete will be asking today for confirmation. I think the audit committee confirmed yesterday that you're content with management decision not to amend that misstatement. We will be making some recommendations for improvement around the significant issue that I've just highlighted, and they'll be coming in a memorandum to management, and we'll monitor those improvements for next year. I'll probably leave it there, except for saying that thank you to Pete, Howell, Sarah and the team and all the finance team for the cooperation that we've had. Got excellent relationships, and it made some quite tricky and complex accounting issues far easier to take forward because of those relationships. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike. And it's always both good and very important to have that assurance around the working relationship between yourselves and our colleagues within the organisation. As you say, where that is in place, it makes things both easier and more productive. So thank you for that assurance as well. And also, as you say, Mike, our Audit, Risk and Assurance Committee met yesterday under the chairmanship of Steve Elliott. And as I often explain in board meetings, it's in our subcommittees that we really get into the detail, the nitty-gritty of scrutiny. And those committees are very significant and key sources of assurance to us as a board. And therefore, I'm going to invite Steve, therefore, to present item 2.2 to us and talk to
Carl. Carl, could I come in, please, just before
yeah.
Steve? Sorry, and just if I just come in, noting Mike's comment and that he may not be with us for the full meeting, I just wanted to echo Mike's comments in terms of thanking Mike and the audit team. Built up really good relationship between our teams, good communication, good working through issues, as Mike has highlighted. But I just wanted to thank Mike, thank Erin and the wider team for that ongoing good relationship and good working, and we will focus on the learning as we do every year and pick up on other areas where we can improve our year-end account process. So thank you, Mike.
No, thanks, Pete, and thank you for interrupting. Really important point, and builds on the point I was making earlier. So, so Steve, over to you. Please share with us something of the discussion yesterday, and indeed your recommendation to us as the Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you.
Diolch, Carl. Bwrdd pawb. Good morning all. I'm Steve Elliott, the Independent Member for Finance and Chair of the Audit, Risk and Assurance Committee. So the committee met yesterday to consider the annual report, incorporating the annual accounts. And I'd like to draw the board's attention to the following matters which were discussed. Firstly, following on from what's just been said, the committee wished to acknowledge the significant amount of work involved across the organisation in pulling together the annual report and accounts in such a short timescale following the year end. The committee wished to thank all staff involved, and also to thank both internal audit and Audit Wales colleagues for their ongoing good relationship with the organisation and, of course, their contribution to this process. The committee noted that the Auditor General intends to issue an unqualified, true and fair opinion on the accounts, but in line with previous years, intends to qualify his regularity opinion due to the failure to achieve statutory financial duties with the cumulative deficit after 3 years of £61 million. As set out in the paper, the committee noted that the cumulative deficit reflects deliberate decisions that the board has made over the past 3 years to prioritise performance, patient safety and outcomes, which has led to the deficit situation. It is important in the context of our escalation status that these choices are clearly understood. We all recognise, and the board and the committees recognise, that this is not a sustainable position, and so our annual plan reflects a continued focus on financial recovery and improving grip and control. And the committee continues to monitor financial controls within the organisation. With respect to the accounts, as Mike has just outlined, the committee noted that a misstatement of £2.4 million identified during the audit process has not been corrected in the 25-26 accounts, but will be corrected during the current financial year. While this is a significant sum, it does relate to technical accounting treatment for fixed assets, that's predominantly buildings, hospital buildings and equipment. And to correct this would require not only adjustments to our accounts, but also an adjustment to Welsh Government funding streams that we receive for these technical adjustments. The committee were assured that this misstatement does not have an impact on the ongoing financial position of the board, and therefore accepted the decision not to adjust for it in the 25-26 accounts. And as a committee, we will consider this later in the year and ensure that this issue has been addressed during the current year. So on this basis, the committee are therefore content to recommend the annual report and accounts to the board for approval and for them to be signed and submitted as required. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Steve. So really important source of assurance for us as a board to support the recommendation from ARAC that we approve the annual report, recognising that the accounts include a non-material but uncorrected misstatement, as Steve has referred to, and indeed as has been explained by Audit Wales and by our Executive Director for Finance. So without further ado, well, I'm going to move to item 2.3 and again invite Pete to speak initially, and also Helen, our Director of Corporate Governance, to speak to the performance report, the accountability report, financial statements, and the letter of representation. So is it you first, Pete, or Helen? You.
So I'm happy to start, Carl.
Okay.
Thank you for that lead in. So yes, as you say, so we're now presenting the board with our final annual report, including the accounts for 25-26. And without repeating the comments made by Mike and by Steve, the accounts as included within that annual report have been adjusted for those corrections as stated in the ISA 260 and are represented on that basis. So the accounts are included for submission as part of the annual report. I won't repeat the comments again, and I'm not sure then if Helen wants to add any comments on the other parts of that report.
Thanks, Pete. Actually, just before we go to Helen, one of the things that a very important matter that I omitted to refer to earlier under item 1.2 of our agenda are declarations of interest. And so I will go back to that because it's a very, very important transparency and accountability issue. And I will invite members, colleagues, to declare any interest in relation to any item on our agenda, and also recognising that we have our standing register of interests. Helen, please come in.
Diolch, Carl. Bwrdd, Helen Bushell, Director of Corporate Governance. Carl, just on behalf of all board members, I'd like to make a declaration. The annual report does include remuneration details and therefore pay details of all board members and myself as well. So just to declare that on behalf of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Are there any other declarations of interest? There aren't. So again, apologies for that slight hiccup, but very important to do that. So Helen, would you like to offer additional comment in relation to the performance report or the accountability report?
Thank you, Carl. Just a couple of comments, if I may. So the annual report as presented to the board today is made up of three core elements: the performance report, the accountability report, and the financial accounts and statements that we've already heard about. So just to confirm, all of these have been produced in line with the guidance issued by our Auditor General and also Welsh Government. We've received relevant and incorporated all feedback from our Chief Executive, from our Audit and Risk Committee, from our Finance and Performance Committee. The governance statements have also been reviewed by Audit Wales, by our Head of Internal Audit, and by Welsh Government for regularity in relation to their requirements. Carl, there are some minor administrative changes that we have made to the report since yesterday. We've literally moved some photographs from one place to another. There was a couple of areas where we hadn't quite listed a member of a committee and the chair of a committee, and a couple of typographical issues. So I haven't reissued the report. They are very minor but important, just to make sure that it's accurately reflected. So with your agreement, that will be the version that we issue into Audit Wales and also to Welsh Government. Two final things. May I just share my thanks to Liz Patterson, who has pulled together the entire annual report on behalf of the organisation. There are a number of teams that colleagues have already referred to. I won't repeat those, but just to extend my thanks to our quality and safety team, our performance team, estates, people and culture, and of course our corporate governance and finance teams as well. And just finally to confirm, subject to the board's approval today, and the Auditor General signing the AGM will take place on the 30th of July. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Just in relation to, as you say, the very minor changes that have happened to the report, colleagues, I will assume that we're happy to support those. As Helen says, they are very, very minor. But as we open this for discussion now, if you're not content to do that, then please do indicate, and please do say so. Colleagues, please indicate if you would like to ask a question or contribute to the discussion in relation to the information that's been presented to us under those 3 agenda items. And we'll go firstly to Jen. Thank you, Jen.
Bwrdd pawb, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much, first of all, to Pete and the team, and to Steve and the ARAC committee for their work in firstly producing and then going through really scrutinising these reports. Incredibly helpful. I completely support the recommendation, and thank you, Steve, for giving assurance to us that this 2.4 million non-material misstatement is not an issue for us, and you say that it will be dealt with in this coming year. Could you just provide, either you or Pete, provide the headlines? Well, what's the broad approach to trying to rectify that situation so that does not appear in our accounts this time next year? What is it that needs to be done in order to provide us with that assurance, and how will we as a board be assured that that has been done? Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. I will go to Pete, but just so we have the earlier on, Audit Wales talked about their recommendations in relation to this. But Pete, over to you as to how we will take those recommendations forward and you know, as Jen says, deal with this over the coming year.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Really good question. So as a health board and as a finance team, we've always embraced a culture of continuous improvement. There will always be learning that arrives for any audit, and particularly our year-end audit. And something that we do as a matter of course is arrange for a post-audit debrief to pick up on any learning across the whole area of the audit, not just on this specific individual area. But in this instance, of course, we will go through the process, pick up on the recommendations as Mike Jones and Audit Wales referenced, ensure that's embedded in our day-to-day practices, and ensure that we've got appropriate procedures going forward so that that issue does not arise again, and then the appropriate transactions are completed so that our cumulative position is brought right up to date as part of our accounts for 26-27.
You content, Jen?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Pete.
Rhiannon, please come in.
Wow. I'm not going to ask a finance question because I had the opportunity in the audit committee yesterday, but I am just going to ask about how the annual report is kind of used beyond this reporting of the year that is. I mean, it's really great, obviously, to see all the work that's happened. Obviously, we can see clearly where we still need to do some work to improve, and clearly there are some things to celebrate, which is really important as well. But it is also a diagnostic tool that can add to information that we have. So that was part of my question. But the other thing that I suppose I sort of picked up on looking at it again this morning was when we're talking about POWIS, we refer in the contextualisation about the inequalities that exist. And I wondered if going forward there's an opportunity to draw out more about how we're actually tackling overarchingly the inequalities that exist. So I don't know if anybody can comment to that right now. I know we get reporting in there of things that obviously will help with that, but it's kind of an overarching kind of assessment of where we're at in terms of tackling inequalities for perhaps next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhiannon. Pete, Helen, is it yourselves, or would you like to suggest that somebody else comes in on that?
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Very happy to comment, and Mez may want to add some comment as well as we move through. So, Rhiannon, thank you. So you're absolutely right. I mean, first and foremost, it's a statutory document that we're compelled to produce, and that's important in itself. We've got the AGM coming up on the 30th of July, and again, we published that in time for the AGM. But I think one of the important reflections from Audit Committee yesterday was, how do we genuinely use that to inform the public, our partners and stakeholders more broadly? So we'll be presenting it in a slightly different way at the AGM. The document will support it, but we will help bring it to life. The governance team and I, and I'm sure Pete and other colleagues then, refer to it constantly throughout the year. I think it's a really important source of almost where we are at this point in time and how we reflect on that, learn from it, and kind of move forward. So it is used quite extensively in that context. I think there's always more we can do to promote it, in truth, and I think that's a bit of an ongoing journey for us from that perspective as well. From the inequality perspective, I think this is one tool that we can use for sure. I think we've got other mechanisms through various strategies and assurance reports that we offer through other committees that we could reflect on how we use those as well. But Carl, I could see Nick's hand went up then, so she may well want to add to that as well.
Yeah, so Nick, please come in, our Executive Director for Commissioning and Performance. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously we run an annual planning cycle, as well as at the moment developing annual plans as products, and the annual report is heavily contributed to by the planning and performance teams, as you'd expect, as well as others. So it is a really important part of our planning cycle, that it states our progress in the previous year, both in terms of achievements to build on, and in terms of further risks to address. And we very much use it as that foundation then to inform the planning cycle for the following year, whether we're still in animal planning space or in development of IMTP. Regardless, it is part of the planning cycle, and we use it in that way as well, Rhiannon. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just pausing. You mentioned Mez. I just wonder whether you did have any, please don't feel you have to, but if you had any additional comment, particularly in relation to equalities, as Rhiannon has highlighted. Yeah, come out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So apologies, my camera's in and out because of the reception. So diolch, Rhiannon. Yeah, I think in terms of inequalities, it's really important. Obviously, we'll cover it off as part of the annual report of the Director of Public Health, but actually how we weave in, and there's lots of good work going on as well around tackling inequalities, but I think we can probably strengthen it going forward within the report, and both inequalities in terms of deprivation, but also groups across the geography as well. As well as as we all know, one of our major issues around inequalities is access as well. So the work going forward around Better Together will also address that as well. Diolch.
Thank you. I can't see that anyone wants to ask another question or contribute to the discussion. I'll just pause a little bit to give people an opportunity should they wish to. Doesn't seem so, in which case we will move to the recommendation. Just remind ourselves that the chair of our Audit, Risk and Assurance Committee has reported to us that ARAC, as we call that committee, recommends that we approve the annual report and accounts for 25-26, recognising the non-material uncorrected misstatement. It also recommends that we approve the letter of representation and that we authorise myself as chair, our chief executive and the executive director for finance to sign these documents when and where required. And therefore, the recommendation is that we receive the Audit of Accounts report, the ISA 260 report, that we approve the annual report and accounts for 25-26. We recognise the non-material but uncorrected misstatement of 2.4 million that will be actioned in future years. We approve the letter of representation, and we offer and we agree the authorisation of myself, Chief Exec and Director of Finance to sign the documents when required. Colleagues, does anybody want to make a comment about that recommendation or indicate that they don't support it? No, therefore that recommendation is supported unanimously. So that completes our business for today. There is no other business. So thank you all very much as always for your time, for the work that's gone into preparing for today, particularly to colleagues on ARAC for the detailed work that you undertook yesterday morning. And our next meeting as a board will be held on the 29th of July 2026. Felly, diolch o galon i chi, ac mi welwn i chi yn fuan iawn. Diolch.